August 24th, 1996. The world is greeted by the international release of Team Fortress. Team Fortress, also known as Quake Team Fortress or later Quake World Team Fortress, was a team and class-based mod for the game Quake. The premise of Team Fortress was to pit two teams of red and blue against each other to capture the opposing team's territory or flag. The mod was developed by Robin Walker, John Cook, and Ian Cawley. When the mod first released publicly, it did not support all 9 classes we know and love today. Rather, version 1.0 only contained the Scout, Soldier, Sniper, Demolitions Man, and Combat Medic classes. The next version would then introduce the Heavy Weapons guy, as well as the beloved map 2-Fort. The Pyromaniac was not added until version 1.3, released on October 31st of the same year. And the Spy and Engineer would not become part of the team until June 13th of 1997. As part of Quake World Team Fortress version 2.5. A few years after the mod's release, it caught the attention of an up-and-coming game studio, Valve Software, who had just found their own success with their 1998 sci-fi first-person shooter, Half-Life. Wanting to show off their brand new Gold Source engine technology, Valve hired the Team Fortress Software team and requested them to make a game for them titled Valve's Team Fortress. However, before work on Valve's Team Fortress began, the TF team wanted to get to know the ropes of the Gold Source engine, which just so happened to be based on the Quake engine. On April 1st, 1999, Team Fortress Classic was released to the public. Although it was a new entry to the series, it did not offer much in terms of new mechanics or gameplay that its Quake World predecessor did not already feature. Team Fortress Classic still sported the same 9 classes as well as the Civilian for the Hunted game mode. Most Quake World Team Fortress maps were just remade for Team Fortress Classic with little to no changes gameplay-wise. During this time, Valve showcased a trailer at E3 for an up-and-coming addition to the Team Fortress series titled Team Fortress 2 Brotherhood of Arms. As far as we know today, this was just a retitled version of Valve's Team Fortress. Team Fortress 2 Brotherhood of Arms would have taken a large tone shift away from what was present in Quake Team Fortress and Team Fortress Classic, giving a major emphasis on realism, removing many of the mechanics from previous entries that were seen as unrealistic, such as rocket and grenade jumping. Many changes in this build of Team Fortress 2 would have included using real-life tactics to gain an advantage and the inclusion of the Commander class. All 9 classes would return from Team Fortress Classic, but were mostly heavily altered. Returning classes were the Marine, which was a more realistic soldier, the Machine Gunner, which was a more realistic heavy weapons guy, the Sniper, who functioned mostly the same as his previous counterpart, the Commando, who functioned similarly to the Demolitions Man, the Flamethrower, which as far as we know functioned almost identically to the Pyro, the Ranger, who functioned similarly to the Scout, the Field Medic, who was a less offensive version of his previous counterpart, the Engineer, who actually functioned more like his modern-day counterpart, and the Spy, who functioned similarly to his previous counterparts. However, Brotherhood of Arms would also have introduced 3 new classes into the mix, such as the Officer, who would increase a morale system and lead an attack, the Instructor, who would teach new players how to play the game, and the Commander, who would be the most important class in the game, being able to spectate the entire map while also giving commands and dropping supplies. Eventually, development on this version of Team Fortress 2 went quiet, and was subsequently scrapped as playtesters had trouble distinguishing classes and teams from one another due to the game's heavy realism, along with a quickly aging engine. The realistic tone and atmosphere also made the map's settings make no sense, as realistically, 2 warring factions would never build bases so close to each other, thus making iconic maps like 2-Fort seem silly. Nothing was heard on the progress of Team Fortress 2 until 2003, when a German hacker obtained access to Valve's database and leaked many of Valve's development files, including a build of Half-Life 2 and some model files for a project titled Team Fortress 2 Invasion. Reportedly, the hacker had access to a full build of this version of Team Fortress 2, which had been worked on since 2002, but only the models for a human and alien commando ever made it to the public before the hacker was caught. Little is known about the Invasion build of Team Fortress 2, and what is known is mostly pieced together. It's known all 9 classes would be returning, functioning mostly like their TFC counterparts, but many new buildings would be available, and would not be limited to just the Engineer. All class buildings were included to ones such as a resource pump, EMP generator, bunkers, resupply stations, and respawn stations. Some concept art from the game showed a steampunk-esque art style, drawing heavy inspiration from H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. However, other pieces of concept art showed a more realistic sci-fi style. It's not clear which style was being developed first. Invasion would also have had a slight gameplay change, where the territory you were fighting over would give the winning team resources, which would allow that team to build improved buildings and have faster respawn times. Outside of a few leaks, however, nothing official came with this build, and its assumed development was canned in 2004 to 2005. News on Team Fortress 2 once again went silent until July 2006, when at the EA Summer Showcase event, Valve revealed the Orange Box, a collection containing Half-Life 2 and both its episodes, Portal, and Team Fortress 2. Gone was the realistic military style, instead sporting a retro 1960s cartoony style inspired and influenced by art from the likes of Dean Cornwell, J.C. Leyendecker, and Norman Rockwell. Regarding gameplay, the TF team went back to basics, reintroducing the original 9 classes and their basic functionality, playing nearly the same as their predecessors. While Team Fortress 2 was being developed throughout 2005 to 2006, the game went through many art style revisions, going from a detailed style, more resembling that of Norman Rockwell's work, to a painted, more cartoony style closer to that of Leyendecker. Much of the concept art from the game also shows the team slowly arriving at what would become the iconic art style TF2 sports today. The gameplay was also carefully crafted during this time, as is apparent with the removal of throwable grenades and opting to give the scout a scattergun rather than a nail gun or SMG, focusing on making weapons more hit or miss. TF2 content creator Lazy Purple goes over much of this design philosophy in his Team Fortress 2 is a Timeless Masterpiece video. Highly recommended, link in description. Team Fortress 2 continued to receive polish until its release on October 10, 2007, to high praise and critical acclaim for its art style, fun atmosphere, and distinct character silhouettes and rewarding gameplay. So finally, after 9 years and many revisions, the game finally released. Many would think that Valve would have released the game and been done with it, and that's where you'd be wrong. Team Fortress 2 received many game-changing updates over the coming years, introducing new game modes, features, and mechanics, and I will go over these updates and changes and their effect on the TF2 community at the time in a future video, so stick around for when that finally comes out. Finally, I'd like to say thank you to all the new subscribers from my last video. I didn't expect it to get nearly as much attention as it did, but I'm super grateful for it. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more scripted commentary videos like this, please like the video and subscribe to see more. And I guess hit the bell. Not sure if that really does anything or not, but, you know. Thank you all for watching. See ya.